Greg, how are you, sir?
Yeah, testing. Is this thing on? I'm all good, man. I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. I've had a very weird week.
Okay.
Very weird week. Shoots getting cancelled, shoots getting moved around last minute, a lot of new bits and pieces, getting sunburnt on a beach after waiting there for 12 hours for the talent to turn up. Just normal kind of stuff. It wasn't 12 hours, to
I
be
was
fair.
going
And
to
I
say,
wasn't.
did they turn up and then it was nighttime?
No, I wasn't on a beach that long either. It's really melodrama. I like to kind of embellish the story slightly. I was kept waiting for a little bit on a beach. And I say kept
Okay.
waiting. I actually wasn't. I was in a cafe. So actually, there's worse places to be.
And you
Long
had an
story,
ice cream.
yeah, exactly. I did. I mean, long story short, basically what happened there is I turned up really early.
Okay, fine.
So
And there wasn't actually any talent.
and there wasn't talent. In fact, I was just going to the beach, Greg. That's what's happened there. No, but it's been a. I mean, what day is it today? It's well, I don't want to give the magic away, so it's a day.
It's a day in the week.
It's a day in the week, and it's been busy.
I
It's
don't
been
think
busy.
it matters what day of the week it is, Tom.
No, does it not? It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
There you go.
Thursday
There you
vibes.
go. You've spoilt the magic. I'm not going to tell the date. Everyone always thinks we record these on Tuesday, and then they go out straight away. They're live on Tuesdays when they go out.
Yeah, from 2019. Yeah, no, yeah. So, okay, so you've had a weird week. I don't want to give the magic away here, but I feel like I haven't actually caught up with you for about 3 weeks.
We haven't. Shall I tell you why?
Well, you were on holiday.
I did. I had, unbelievably, I actually took a holiday and I was militant about it. I only did 6 meetings. So it wasn't
Good
too bad. I managed to take almost 2 weeks off. And yeah, it was lovely. Not that you asked, obviously. But yeah, we had a great time, thanks.
But you and the meeting people or you and the family?
No, I had, do you know, so I met
Your
the family.
see you? Yeah, you met them.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The 6 meetings. We had 6 scheduled hour-long slots where I broke away from
family
work.
time now.
Yeah, right. Come on, everybody.
You've got 60 minutes.
But yeah, no. So I did have to do a couple of meetings while I was out there for some ongoing jobs, but also was trying to pitch on a few things. And then the briefs got changed. The client decided to go in a different direction. So I kind of feel maybe that I shouldn't have taken an hour out of my holiday to do that meeting.
Yeah, that's always fun, isn't it?
But it just happens all the time, doesn't it? You know, we're just freelancers, and that's just par for the course. It shouldn't be, but sadly it is. So anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah. So apologies, we've not caught up. You've been busy. I've been busy. You know, luckily we've been busy.
Yeah, things have picked up. It seems a little bit in the industry from what I've heard and from personal kind of experience. But you know, I'm sure it's ups and downs. As always is ups and downs. And I guess the danger of it getting a bit busier is that sometimes you kind of go through a period and then you come out the other side of it and you're like, oh, I haven't lined anything else up. But anyway,
I'm terrible for doing that. I do that all the time. I'll go quiet and I suddenly go, oh, right, great. What I'll do, newsletter, schedule loads of stuff for social media, do all this kind of, and I'll be like, right, go. And then I suddenly get busy again. And it's the first thing to get forgotten about, isn't it? I'm sure everyone's the same, because you kind of, as soon as you get busy, well, the jobs sort of have to be the most important bit. And then I just forget every single time. I will say, though, you say it's getting busy. I'm reading a WhatsApp chat right now of 400 photographers, and there's a lot of people in there saying that it's, you know, it's deathly quiet and it's just the weirdest year. So if you're feeling it's a weird year, you're not alone, obviously.
yeah.
And some people are picking up a little bit, some people aren't, but some people were busier earlier this year where a lot of people weren't. So
Yeah.
it's
In the context of this, I had like a couple of months where it was absolutely dead. So yeah, you've just got to, in those downtimes, that's always the tricky thing is keeping your motivation up, keeping kind of focused on positive things that you can be doing to, drum up work, but also kind of keeping the fire in your belly going so that you're excited and inspired yourself to be, either creating new projects or thinking about new projects or trying different strategies of marketing or whatever, just trying to find ways to keep yourself mentally in the game.
I would also say that, sometimes it might be you, but I would say if you're quiet this year, it is absolutely not you. It seems that the whole industry has taken a bit of a not a tumble, but feels like it is slowly trying to pick itself back up again. But it has just been so quiet for so many people. So it's important though when you're quiet, obviously look at your work and stuff. But it's been a weird couple of years, especially since COVID. It isn't you or the work. And actually, things I'm sure will get better. I'd like to think things are going to get better because I think you just have to have that positivity. I'm very much a glass half full kind of guy. So you kind of want to, I really desperately want things to be getting better. And I don't want to be reading these WhatsApp chats about how, everyone's really struggling and it's a miserable time. I want the whole industry to pick back up and be having a great time.
Yeah.
So hopefully that is where we'll head.
Indeed. Well, seeing as we're let's talk about something that we're used to talking about. Tom, you've got new toys.
Yes, I do. But listen, full disclosure, I have been sent some stuff. The trouble is, right, you get sent things, and I think people are kind of keen to get like a genuinely I'm sure that there's a lot of people on a popular video sharing website that get sent things and they give a glossy review as part of the deal. I get sent things because I'm brutally honest, and they're going to get utterly honest feedback. So I've been sent some things from Tether Tools, and there's some nice products in there, and there's some stuff that needs improvement, and I've been really honest with them. I've been sent some stuff from Manfrotto, and by and large, it's actually all. To give you, I'll go into the Manfrotto stuff in a minute because I think it's actually kind of important. And I've also been sent a couple of bits from Profoto. Now, some of the stuff I'm not allowed to talk about, but they sent me the Zoom Rod S, which I can now talk about because I've had it a couple of weeks and it launched last week, I think it was. Now, I've been using it for about a month, and it's... To quickly go through the products that we've been talking about, Tether Tools have sent me an unreleased something that I'm not allowed to talk about, but they also sent me their new lever lock tether thing, tether guard, which
we'll
is
link to that the leather lock thing.
Yeah, lever lock. Is it lever lock? Oh, it'll be lever lock, won't it? Yeah, of course.
Lever lock. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say lever, but do they say leather? I don't know. Leather
don't know.
To me sounds like it's going to be kind of like a medieval kind of vibe. It is not. So the Manfrotto stuff is I have been sent the quick flags stuff. Now I really want to talk about them because I think they're super cool. And I'll go into the reason why. And then the Profoto stuff that I can talk about is I've been sent the Zoom Rod S, which I do really want to talk about because that has been something I have been bugging them for probably 4 years, like for something like that. I'm not saying that I'm the reason they created it, but I would like to think that my incessant bugging has caused them to create this product just to stop me sending emails. So what should we talk about first? We're talking about the Tether Tools lever lock.
What is that?
What is the lever lock is a little thing. It's like an Arca Swiss tether guard. So the cable comes out of the camera, under the camera, into this lever lock, and into the little plate. And there's a channel that the cable runs through, and then there's a lever on it which locks the cable in place, or it doesn't lock it in place. It adds tension to stop the cable moving around so much.
Right.
And I fed back my feedback. My feedback is actually a nice product. It doesn't fit into my workflow.
What's it made from?
It's all aluminium.
Okay.
Or aluminum. But it's a nicely machined bit of kit. I would say
it has an Arca Swiss edge on it, does it?
It has an Arca Swiss edge on it. Now I feel that with Arca Swiss, one of the advantages of it, and actually just most tripod heads in general, is that you can have a bit of an adjustment space on it. Now I said to Tether Tools, they've made it like an inch and a bit square for the Arca Swiss, but I want a bit more adjustment on it. So I thought, actually, you don't have to have something that small, which actually, because it's so small, it does dig into your hand a little bit on the vertical edge. And some of the inside edges, they've been machined a bit perfectly, so they're a bit sharp. And
Yeah.
actually, on something like that, if it's on my hand, if I'm using a grip and in portrait orientation, I want it to be a bit smoother and kinder on my hand. And also, if there's a cable running through it, I don't want sharp edges anywhere near the cable. I don't think that's going to be a good thing for longevity of a cable if it's constantly having to go through like a sharp edge.
Yeah, so I use a Photo Fortress, which I think you've used before as well.
No, I'm back on them as
And
well. And
they are great bits of kit. The only thing that for me is like would be if they could have done that with a metallic rather than a plastic build,
because there's
and again with an Arca Swiss, because then you don't have to then add a tripod plate onto the bottom of that.
yeah.
For me,
No,
if you use
I
Arca Swiss,
actually
obviously.
agree with the Photo Fortress. The Photo Fortress is a super clever design. If anyone doesn't know what a Photo Fortress is, we'll link to it in the show notes. It's sold by our friend LS Digi, and which actually he was on the show, which was a great episode. So if we can link to that as well, giving Greg tons of work. Sorry. The Photo Fortress is a plastic block that sits under the camera, and it has a slot, like a tray that comes out, and the tray is got a wavy design built into it. And what it does is it pushes in and clicks in, and that means the cable is then trapped in this wavy bit, and it's not coming out. But you're right, it is. If you're putting a tripod plate on the bottom of it, there is a bit too much flex for my liking. I am sort of lucky that I don't have to worry about that anymore, because the 24-105 from Canon has a non-removable lens collar.
All right, so you can mount onto the lens collar rather than the camera.
Yeah, you can detach the foot part of it, but the lens collar is permanently fixed.
Does it rotate?
But it does rotate,
See,
which is great, because when you are shooting a landscape picture on a tripod, you literally, all you need to do to rotate it, undo the collar, rotate the camera 90 degrees, lock the collar back up.
Yeah.
So you don't need to touch the tripod. You don't need to touch there's no plate on the bottom of the camera, and the Photo Fortress then comes into its own, because there is absolutely no pressure on it making it rock back and forth or anything like that. So that's been a bit of a game changer for me. Plus also because that lens is really long, having the center of gravity in the middle of the lens, or kind of towards the back of the lens, it means it's kind of nicely balanced. Whereas obviously if you have it all on the body end, that's quite a lot of stress, A, on the Photo Fortress, B, on the mount as well. And so, yeah, it's quite a lot. But that lens for me is great.
How do you get on with, how are you getting on with that lens? Because I know when you bought it, it was like your unicorn lens. I'm guessing you're still loving it.
Right. Again, I've bought this with my own money, because the problem is when I give a gushing review, it makes it sound like it's sponsored by Canon. Now, full disclosure, Canon have interviewed me about the R5C, and every now and then they'll send me a message on Instagram. That is the extent of our relationship. So there's nothing financial. But listen, that 24-105, the distortion that is corrected in Capture One is kind of crazy, because when you look at the uncorrected images, there's a lot of distortion on it. But I never see that because I have auto correction turned on. So when I load the files in, the convenience of it means that I genuinely don't think I'll ever use another lens.
And it's as sharp as you want it to be, etc.
Actually, so I've had the 24-70 2.8, the RF version. I actually found that too sharp.
Right.
So the 24-105 is almost as sharp, but just not quite. And actually, that's perfect for me, because it just takes away, I would say, the harshness. I quite often soften ever so slightly, and then I add grain at the end in the final step. So I do just kind of take away from the quality a little bit. But yeah, honestly, 24-105, I have, again, I'm trying not to gush about it. It's been possibly the best purchase I've ever made.
Of a 2-foot lens.
of a 2-foot lens that weighs 17 kilos. It's that, yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's big. And yes, it weighs a lot. And it does take up the whole bottom of my bag. Like, literally, everything else is just like beautifully organized. And then at the very bottom, there's just this monster lens.
Yeah. You
But
actually have to strap it in the tripod mounts on the side of the bag.
not honestly, it's not far off. But yeah, honestly, it's been. I genuinely, and here's the issue, right? We've talked about this before on the show. What am I going to get in the new versions of cameras that is going to want to make me upgrade? Like the lens I've got covers me for now every single thing that I do.
Yeah.
And I really like using it, and I really like how it feels. I'm quite a big lad, and I kind of like I love how it handles. I love the picture that I get out of it. I love the extra range. That to me means I have 2 lenses in my bag. I have the 24-105 and I have the 24-70 as a backup. And I probably wouldn't even bother carrying the 24-70, but because I'm a professional and I know that lenses do get dropped, I do have to have a backup.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'll never use it. Currently, I feel like I would never use another lens. It feels it's like the standard zoom, so it doesn't have like crazy amounts of character. But again, I don't necessarily want that. It's got a look that I like. It's got speed that I never really need, but it's nice to have in case I do. It's got the range, which is ultra useful, 24-105, but in something that's got that much quality. And the big thing for me is it's got internal zoom.
Yeah.
So, when I'm rigging it out as a video lens, it doesn't extend out. So I can have a matte box on the front of it and not worry about the rig changing shape or getting unbalanced and stuff like that. So honestly, it ticks pretty much every single box. I don't think I'll ever need anything ever again. And it's the first time that I've ever sat down and gone, I'll never move possibly cameras, let alone systems. This does literally everything I need. And we were talking about this in the private members, again, the Exposed Negative WhatsApp group. For people who support the show, you can support our show by signing up to Patreon over at patreon.com/exposed negative. But we were chatting about this the other day, and we were saying actually 40 to 50 megapixels seems like a bit of a sweet spot. Very rarely, if I don't think ever, has anyone asked me for a bigger file than what I'm sending in.
Yeah, so I mean, I recently shot a commercial job on the Canons, and I've stopped. I was kind of in my tracks from the direction I was going, which was to sell them all off, because I find the Canon R5 a very boring but functional camera. It just works, and because I've shot with Canon for nearly 20 years, even though I've predominantly started to move towards shooting with Fuji quite a lot, the Canon stuff is just, the muscle memory is still there, and it just works. It's just a good workhorse of a camera, and actually, the colors and everything are pretty easy and good to work with. I still love my Fujis, and I still very much kind of will pick the camera for the job. So I'm flying out on a job on Sunday, and it's a travel assignment, and for that I will always take the Fujis because they are smaller, lighter, and I use the lenses have more character to them. And so in those situations, traveling with something like the 24-105 just wouldn't be feasible because A, it's so heavy, and B, the type of work I'm doing and shooting with it, it's just too much for beast. Whereas if I was in the studio or shooting, a commercial project that was a bit more static, perhaps, then I think that would be a lens I'd go with. But for my work, I feel like I tend to towards the kind of smaller systems and the lighter systems.
Well, I suppose, especially also for a lot of your stuff, I think when you're going in and shooting polo players or you're going out with a tribe, you don't necessarily want this absolutely monstrous thing in your face between you and the subject. You want something small, unobtrusive, that they're not really going to fuss about. It doesn't look crazy, It's a nice, and I really like the look of those Fujis. I would say that they're probably the only, maybe them and Sony and the Olympus, but I don't know many of us using Olympuses, but the Fujis and the Sonys, they are one of the only mirrorless brands that did keep the whole size advantage of mirrorless as part of their core thing. I
Yeah.
remember when everyone was like, you should swap to mirrorless, everything's much smaller and lighter, and then cut forward about 6 years, and then there's me with the Canon R5C with a grip and the 24-105 going, I feel like the Naked Gun sketch where the guy puts together a tank out of a briefcase.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I don't know. It's I do value that kind of lightness of touch that you get with the mirror, with that Fuji mirrorless. Yeah. One thing I got recently though, I did get an M mount for mine. So for viewers rather than listeners, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see. But this is my R5 with my Leica M Similux stuck on the front.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
And one thing about the mirrorless is, which is really lovely, is that obviously being able to use these kind of third-party lenses with adapters and using peak focusing or the kind of bunny ears focusing, which Canon use, I
Bunny
really
ears.
like. Yeah, so it's almost
I know the one with
they come together like that.
The triangle. Yeah,
yeah,
I like that.
So I was doing some digital scanning the other day in the studio, neg scanning, and you have to focus on the grain. So you punch into 10 times, but actually I was finding that indicator was so accurate that when I punched in, it was pretty much bang on the grain, even though I was looking at the whole image. But normally when you have your digital scanning negs, you've really got to be punched in 10 times to be able to make sure the grain is sharp before you take the image. But yeah, with that system is great. And anything that so if someone was telling me about this the other day, but like older Zeiss lenses that were designed for EF mounts, they will work with the electronics in these cameras. If you have an RF to EF mount, you can use those lenses, and then things like face tracking will work, even though the lenses themselves are actually manual focus. So you can use the face tracking and be focusing manually to be focusing on the face, if you see what I mean.
Oh, I see. Was it as in punched in?
I believe so. Yeah, I've not tried it myself, but
that's interesting.
It's an interesting thing to play around with, because then you can start to use third-party lenses and get that character in something that maybe isn't just a static object. Although, let's be honest. I mean, the other thing is, obviously, when I use that lens on a Leica M body, where it's designed to be used, it's actually a right pain in the ass, because it's too heavy for those M bodies. Like that particular Similux weighs an absolute ton for the size of it, because it's all just glass and brass, and it's front heavy. Two, you're focusing with the naked eye unless you use a live view on the back, which isn't ideal. And three, those cameras don't have rotational screens, whereas obviously things like the R5 and the Fuji ones do. So suddenly being able to kind of flip out the screen and manually focus is a lot easier when you can flip out a screen, because you don't have to have your eye to it. So yeah. But long story short, I shot with the Canons and I was like, I no longer want to sell these. I want to hold on to them. I still only own two RF lenses.
Which ones do you have?
I have the 24-70 and the 50, 1.4. 1.2, is it?
Yeah, 1.2, which is a cool lens. I like it a lot.
Yeah. And I did have a few others, but I sold them early on. Like not particularly high-end ones. I'm tempted to get the 85 at some point, maybe, and I'd quite like to get a 35 because I like having my primes. But I need to I'd like to play with one first and see whether or not I've really got on with them in terms of how they look on the camera, whether or not I feel like it's actually worthwhile.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I have the 35. On an R6, which just lives with me as like a behind the scenes
I used to have that
daily life.
1.8, but I've got a 1.4 EF 35, which is ancient, so ancient that the rubber focus sleeve has just fallen off, so now it's an entirely smooth lens.
Nice.
So
good to have no grip on that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not ideal, but I'd be tempted to have a look at those, because I've still got the 7200 EF. I've still got all my old EF glass. It doesn't make much sense at the moment to move, to be spending $3,000 on a new lens of something that I actually, the only the kind of main difference seems to be that you just have to use the adapter,
Yeah.
which is a pain in the bum. Don't get me wrong. Having to because the end caps and the body caps obviously don't all match up. So then you're playing
That's
around with
minor.
no, it is minor, but I have occasionally shoved a body like an end cap on a lens and it's got stuck
Ah,
because it was for an EF and it's
that's
been
less
shoved
minor.
onto an RF. Yeah, and you're just like, oh great, have I wrecked my lens because I put the wrong the end cap on or something? So yeah,
Well, I'm for one glad that you're not selling it because obviously you own it. You're happy with it. Don't bother buying anything new. That sounds like it's like a perfect situation. I'm not going to say it again because I literally had my Digi over for breakfast this morning, and he
you ate
laughed.
him for breakfast.
I did eat him for breakfast. That's why I look so full. No, we talked and I said, you know what, Sam, I'm done buying kit, and he just laughed. He just laughed straight at me, not even to my face, straight into my eyes. Sam, I'll never forgive you. No, I will, obviously, but I've kind of come to now a place where the kit is less exciting, and talking about like what more would we want from a camera. I was shooting GIFs the other day at like 11 or 12 frames a second, and then I shot I had the billboards up in Piccadilly Circus, which was obviously great. You look
I
up and
saw
see,
them.
and I was really
Yeah,
proud. I was stood with I shot the load of work with the Paralympics GB for anyone who hasn't seen the story up on my Instagram. And it's a really proud moment when you're sat there and stood there with some of the athletes and a whole load of the team from Paralympics GB ready to see the images come up. And we had Sky TV, ITN, it was great. They had loads of the news people down. I was really proud. But the reason I bring it up is not to brag. The reason I want to bring it up is talking about resolution, right? Because when they were like, Tom, these are the specs that we need for the screens, I was kind of thinking, well, it's huge, but it's far away. Sorry, I'm boring myself. It's a huge screen, but it's really far away. So it's going to be mid resolution. But you get these templates when you do these huge billboards, as I'm sure you know. You get these templates sent through from the company who runs the boards. And they're like, you need to fit the image into here. There's a huge bleed on these things because they have to work on the Piccadilly Circus ones. They have to work on the ones across the bridges, the thinner ones. Anyway, all sorts. It's one of these ones where they have to fit so many different formats. But I've written a resolution down here. What do you think the resolution that I needed to create this thing? Bearing in mind a raw file from the R5C. Let's have a look at how big a raw file is from the R5. This is when Capture takes forever to load. Hang on. Okay, so the
don't
raw
turn
file.
off, listeners.
No, I'm here. I'm back. So the raw file from the R5C is 40 something megapixels. 43? No,
Okay,
it's
is
more
that
than
different
that.
from the R5?
No, it's the exact same. It's the exact same sensor, but the resolution is 8,192 by 5,464.
Okay, you're asking
Right?
me to guess this. I'm going to be so out that I'm not even going to try guessing. Just tell
Go
me.
on, no. Go on, have a guess. Do you think it's more resolution or less resolution? They're the
It's
biggest.
50-50.
They're pretty much. I think they're the biggest screen in the UK.
Yeah, I would have thought it was more.
Right. The resolution is 2,112 by 1,144.
Wow. Okay.
So everyone going, we need 100 megapixels. I need more. The megapixel war is, as far as I'm concerned, done. Because the biggest billboard in the UK, it might not necessarily be the biggest billboard in the UK, but it's, to my eyes, it's pretty big. And then that was the resolution that was needed.
Do
And
you
I was
know
like, that's crazy.
I have a conspiracy theory about this.
Do you?
I think all megapixel wars were actually started by big data.
Right. What, to make us buy hard drives?
Yeah, they stand to win.
They did very well out of us. Let's face it. Who's not listening to this who has got terabytes of stuff on hard drives, right?
Yeah.
I would go with that.
So yeah, this was the exact conversation we were having the other day on the chat about kind of, as you said, I don't think we need more megapixels. That there's kind of like a sweet spot we've reached. But I'd like to also very quickly. I mean, this will date when we recorded this for people in our in our group. But I'd love to
the Titanic sunk.
I'd love to shout out to James earlier who jumped on. I like the fact that we can use our WhatsApp group like a little encyclopedia from just, today there was a question about, what was it that Steve was bringing on? It was to do with the kind of disruption in his rolling shutter.
Yeah,
To
had
do
a bit
with
of jelly
noise.
roll.
Yeah. But it was to do with like sound waves. It was quite technical. Someone was able to jump on and help that. There was a discussion about kind of metadata stuff in Capture One, which somebody was able to like jump on and try and solve. And then I had a random question about: does anyone remember this particular photo of three elderly gentlemen on the side of a mountain in Ireland taken in the 70s on a pilgrimage? And James was able to jump in and be like, Joseph Godelka, within about 20, less than 20 seconds. I mean,
I was very impressed.
I'd spent a good 10 minutes searching on Google using various keywords with coming up to no joy. So it ranges from the technical to the photographic theory to, it's brilliant.
Well,
It's
and there's
great
people
resource.
It is a great resource, and if come and join us. But the cool thing about it is we got people from all over the world and people from all different walks of life. There's loads of experience in it as well. So it's a really good vibe.
Yeah,
basically,
I was like, this is a good group when I had two questions answered in quick succession.
I believe James might have got both of them. To shout out to James.
We've taken up time on this, so I want to move on to these things because let's start with this quick flag system that you got sent by Manfrotto.
Oh, yeah, right. So should I explain how I got sent them?
In the post. Yeah, move on.
I did. Yeah, they got mailed to me. Actually, they didn't. They got delivered by hand.
Okay.
So the guys from Avenger came down. I set up a test shoot in my local village hall, and they came down to hang out for the afternoon and talk about what I need from products and why I like this and don't like that and why this is great. Basically see how I would work on one of my shoots, on one of my smaller shoots, because a lot of these companies, I feel like there's a bit of a sweet spot for where I and us maybe sit, that obviously on the higher stuff, we can totally get away with bringing out the heavy stuff. But then on our personal stuff, some of the stuff available to us is maybe too lightweight. And then the stuff that I want from the higher place is just too heavy to bring out for the smaller shoots. So it does feel like there's a bit of a sweet spot of maybe wanting something that's a bit more portable, but still is heavy duty enough that I can put some weight on it without worrying about it going over.
Yeah, I mean, look at sandbags and the development of sandbags. And it's a random thing to look at, but when you're on an editorial shoot and you're turning up on your own, the last thing you're going to have space for in your bag, especially if you're traveling and not in a car, is extra sandbags. It's literally so they've now you get companies that make these bags that you can fill up with water when you arrive and then use them, and they're not obviously quite as good or effective normally, and sometimes they leak everywhere, but it's a way that it's had to evolve.
That's my worry. But also, I did see one, and this is not great for the environment, but just obviously just reuse the water, or reuse the plastic. But there is one that I saw that had 4 or 6 big 2-litre bottles of water in it.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well, actually, that would be a decent amount of weight. And you can go anywhere in the world, buy the bottles of water, and, then the problem is I can't really kind of advocate for buying loads of plastic. I'm trying to cut and phase plastic out as much as possible. But, you are able to kind of fill it with rocks, or, what I do is when I
go anywhere in the world,
find
some rocks. Central London.
Yeah,
it's so easy. I need some rocks.
So easy to find rocks there. No, but I when I travel out and go and do these personal projects and travel and stuff like that, I will take empty sandbags and just fill them when I'm there. I'll go and find some sand. I'll go to either a builder's merchant.
Surreptitiously be on the beach at night. I've got to fill the sandbags.
What's that guy? What's that Brit over there doing? Taking souvenir sand?
Yeah, they arrest people in certain countries for stealing sand.
Yes, but don't steal sand.
No,
that's why I said going to the build.
Something here.
Oh, no. So I went to the builder's merchants, obviously, Greg.
Right, okay. Travis Perkins out in Indonesia.
Exactly. No, but the guys from Avenger were really open to hearing what I was saying, and that I think a lot of them, they were saying that a lot of their experience and a lot of their thought process was when things needed to be portable, they also needed to be light, which means things that are light don't tend to be massively helpful for us, right? Yeah, they either bend, because the lights aren't going to get any lighter.
Yeah.
And the modifiers aren't. And then the stress if you're then putting them on a lighter stand.
You just have to turn up the power.
Well, there we go. So no, but the guy. So I've known the guys at Avenger and Manfrotto now for a couple of years, and they're very nice people. But when I catch up with them every year at the photography show. So and this year I was speaking with Capture One, and our stand was directly opposite the Manfrotto stand. So I'd go over and I'd say hi, catch up, and then didn't notice until I was leaving on the last day because I'd not been around the side of the stand. The guy who runs Avenger here in the UK was like, look, I've got to show you these. I think you'd really like them. And I went, oh my God, I love him. And I got so excited. I properly yelped. I was that excited. And they are collapsible flags. But they're not collapsible flags like road rags, the Matthews one where you've got the long pole with the fold-in ends.
Yeah.
No, these ones use the same kind of clicky frame system as the Manfrotto Halo reflector, which means they fold down really small.
Yeah.
And they fold out really big. So I now have, in the box they sent me, you get 2 frames, you get a full net, half net, a diff, I don't know, it might be a full stop diff, and you get a black flag as well. And they're super easy to do. You literally unfold the frame, clip it all together, and then bend it, stand on it and bend the frame down to slide the fabric on. Yeah. And then they have an open end. So obviously anyone who's used frames and flags, the open-ended ones for me are always nice because they just feather off the effect rather than leave like a hard edge with whatever you're trying to do. And they do them in 2 sizes. They've sent me the larger set, and it's been super useful. I've stuck it in front of lights to just kind of soften them even more, or I hang them. I kind of have them overhead on a C stand. The problem is with traveling is that the flags, floppies, they're just not something we can bring out. They, we don't tend to, especially if I'm going in to do it like me or you going to go and do a small editorial, me, maybe you, an assistant, it's kind of like, me with an assistant or you with an assistant. We then don't have spare hands to kind of trundle all this stuff in. And the flags, they don't fold down. They're massive. They're kind of unwieldy. And they're big 48 by 48. They don't even fit in the back of a car.
Yeah.
So I know Matthews... And I think Avenger do, but I think Matthews definitely do a 40-inch version, which does fit in the back of an estate car. But the idea of like dragging all of that sort of stuff out to an editorial or something smaller on your own just seems like a bit of a nightmare, really. Which is where these kind of the folding stuff. Hang on, let me go and find the box. Talk amongst yourselves.
Hello, listeners. I could talk about anything. Tom's taking his headphones off. This is brilliant. Except I don't know what to talk about.
There you go. That was fascinating for you, I'm sure.
He's back. So let's stop talking.
Right, okay. I heard what you all said. So that is it. That is
Man shows box on camera.
Man shows box on camera. Look, I'll even open it up. Look. So comes in this nice little case. And then there you go. So you got 2 of the frames, and then in there,
This is the large kit as well. This is the large 24 by 36.
That's right. Yeah. So you got a black, you got the diff, and you've got the two nets under there. But they've really thought this stuff through because it uses the smaller mount on a grip head, and then it's got, I don't know if you can see, cover
Put
my
your hand
eyes.
behind it.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
So it's got it's got a flat edge.
Yeah.
So when it goes into the mount on the frame, it won't twist.
Right. Okay.
So it just
nice.
and it's just like it's little things like that I was kind of just when I was kind of playing with them for the first time, I was just like, this is really nice stuff. It's really been nicely thought out. Like, I think a lot of people would just have that as a circular thing and then it might twist or anything like that. But this seems like a really properly, nicely thought out bit of kit.
I guess the good thing about it as well is you can always take it out of that case if you know you're only going to need certain bits of material. Because sometimes these things, they come in cases which are not necessarily going to fit in that kind of stuff. For me, would have to go inside a lighting bag. So I'd be probably putting it into a logistics manager from Think Tank or someone like that. You want to be able to take it out and
100%. But you can easily fit the fabric into the roof of the logistics manager, and those frames. When the frames kind of like come out, look. Let me show you. That's a frame. And you can obviously with the frame you can make it.
Well, that's what I've had to do with the Halo reflector that I've got. I've taken it out of the bag it comes in because the bag would only allow you to have one diff in with it.
Yeah.
And I'd bought a second cover, but it no longer fitted in the bag it came with. So I ended up stuffing it all into a spare Domke pouch that I had lying around, and now that kind of goes in the lighting bag.
Do you know what, though? I think it's an interesting thing. I do find that a lot of the stuff we get doesn't quite have cases that are like quite right for it. Like,
no,
I
think that's probably because the case is often an afterthought or something that they're not going to spend the time developing for most brands anyway.
No, fair enough. And it just has to ship to the customer, right? And then most of us, like you and I, we literally take it out and put it somewhere else in our kit bags. No, I get it. But it would be, for example, what happens when you're...
I'll tell you one company actually that do really good is Tilter. Their stuff that they ship in cases has been, like, the quality of the actual material they use on the cases themselves is really good.
Yeah,
over the years I've had reflector bags from other brands that have just fallen apart. They've just ripped. You've got the zip still stays in, but the material that's attached to the zip just starts to rip away, and you're just like, well, what do you find then to put a reflector in that folds down and has to be kept under pressure? Yeah, frustrating.
Drum cases. Cymbal cases.
Yeah.
Weirdly. So I have a cymbal case which has some of the big Manfrotto pop-up, like 100, the big square ones, the 180 high ones, and they just live in a like a cymbal case.
Nice.
With some of the Profoto reflectors. And actually it's quite nice, just because I don't really care about them, because I just literally just chuck them in on top of stuff. So it is quite nice. But yeah, going back to this flag set, I think they've honestly it's. I don't know how much I'd use them outside, but I don't know realistically how much, how many times you'd be using that sort of thing outside. For me, the size, the speed, the fact that they kind of compress down a little bit, and I think the price point is like roughly around the same as a Road Rags kit. I'm chuffed. Like, I will say again, they sent them to me to try out, and I've been really chuffed with them. So yeah. It's been great. And talking about being chuffed, I do also want to talk about the zoom rod. Right? Are you happy for me to talk about the zoom rod?
Absolutely.
So this is an interesting thing. So Profoto very kindly, about a month or so ago, sent me their Zoom Rod S a couple of weeks before it got. I think it got released last week. I think it was. So now I'm allowed to talk about it, which is good. But the Zoom Rod S, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically the softbox goes onto the mechanism, and then the zoom rod pushes a rod through the center of that mechanism into a cage, and then the light is fixed into the cage, firing back into the softbox. Now, you and I, we both use flat-fronted lights, right? But I've still got. I've still got some of this stuff.
Yeah.
to use with the pro heads and stuff, because it's, for anyone who's listening, I'm this stuff's not light. I'm holding a Profoto B3. Oh, bloody hell. But that stuff, I really loved the exposed tube look.
Yes.
Now you just don't get the same look with flat fronted lights. I'm sure some people might argue that. My preference is that flat fronted lights are amazing because they are so much smaller, way easier to travel with, way more convenient. Most power, most situations are covered by them. They've been brilliant for me. Absolutely thrilled with them. Moved over years ago. But there was like one thing missing. And the thing is, especially on the flat front lights, when you fire them into a box, you do have quite a hefty hotspot in the middle because they don't fill the box in quite the same way as an exposed tube. They just don't. And so the edges of the box also don't see the same power as the middle. So when you are trying to feather the light off, the edges of the box aren't quite filled in the same way as they are with an exposed tube. And so the Zoom Rod S for me is you're able to zoom the flash within the softbox. So distance, you're able to pull the head. This is the back of the softbox, and you're able to pull the head like that. So you're able to fill the box in a different way. So you're able to get slightly punchier and slightly softer results by zooming it in and out. And for me, what it has done is it now turned my modifiers indirect. And for me, that's what I've been after for years.
What modifiers does it work with?
I use it on the 3-foot.
Yeah, but they're all obviously Profoto modifiers that it's working
well, it's a Profoto mount on the. I mean, you could use any box, I guess, as long as it had a Profoto speed ring, because it's got the 100mm mount for the box.
So yeah, because I have a Rotolux that I use, an Elenchron Rotolux that I use with a Profoto mount on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, in theory, use it with that.
Yeah, you could. I don't see any reason why not. But what I would say is the depth of the 100mm block is the perfect depth to get the back of the box flat with it. So when you push the box on, don't push it all the way to the back, because then the block will stick out by a couple of inches if you're not using the official RFI thing. I know you're not meant to use it with the OCF stuff. I don't know why, they just don't tell you not to use it that way. But for me, I've used it on the 3-foot, the 4-foot, and the 5-foot, and I've been super pleased with it. It's fixed it's very subtle. Don't get me wrong, and some people, I guess, might argue that it's probably not worth the hassle of carrying an extra, 3 kilos around. But for me, it's fixed. It does exactly what I was after, and I've been after it for years. So now I'm just like, yeah, this is great, love it. It's beautifully made. I've got to say, it's like, you undo it, and should I go and get it? Actually, I don't know where it is. It's in my big kit bag. I should have really got all this stuff out ready for this show. Apologies. But yeah, honestly, it fits down really nicely in a nice drawstring bag. They've done away with the Velcro on the bag, which is cool. And it's nicely made. I mean, I would say really nicely machined. Like when you undo it, you don't have to, on some of the, I've seen things in the past that have kind of tried to do it. And I owned one at one point. It wasn't anywhere as good, because you'd undo the clip at the back, and then you'd have to like shake it to get, because the machining wasn't like good enough. So you'd have to get the tension off it by shaking it down.
Well, they've also got, they do have history with the original B10s that you shipped without the kind of gnarled adjustment knob.
You don't need to use that at all.
No, but I mean, you'd hope that they've kind of learnt from those early mistakes.
Sorry. I see what you mean, yeah.
Where they kind of shipped those original B10s with a smooth adjustment knob, which was an absolute nightmare if you tightened it up to then undo it.
But then if you were there with sweaty hands... I couldn't... there was one shoot where I had to take my shirt off to undo it. That was a highlight for everyone, I'm sure. But there was no way of doing it, and we didn't have any loose cloth, and I basically I couldn't get my arm up, didn't have time to get the light down, so in a panic I just took my shirt off and just undid it that way. I made everyone look over there, obviously, but but they fixed that with a knurled design. Also, if anyone is ever kind of like getting their B10 stuck, you can just give them a very gentle rock when you're turning the dial, and because they're a rosette, that frees them, helps free it up. Which I got taught about, which is quite a neat little thing. But yeah, the machining on the Zoom Rod S is brilliant. It's very nicely made. It's it's a premium product, right? I think it's about £600 and something.
Wow.
Yeah, but I really like it, and so for me, it's now permanently in the kit bag, and it's it's basically fixed my one big problem that I had with the recessed lights. So for me, yeah, it's brilliant. Love it.
Nice.
And the nice thing was, people were messaging me about, they were going, "Oh, so what's the deal with it?" And I was like, how when you are looking at catch lights in
Yeah.
people's eyes, and when you on a lot of my stuff, you would have, like, you'd see there would be quite a bright catch light, and then it would darken off at the edges in the catch light. Well, the catch light now is just even across the board, and you get really nice. Yeah, it's just I've just been really chuffed with it. I think they've done a really
Lovely.
good job. It might not be for everyone, and if you're thinking about buying one, try one out or hire
Yeah.
one. But I think you should do that with any bit of gear. But they've also released the D3. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yes, I've heard about it. Yeah.
They've gone up to 1250 watts,
Wow.
which is, they do a 750 and a 1250 now.
Wow.
So sounds like a lot. But actually, I think it's a third of a stop, right?
Yeah, you're asking me about inverse laws now.
No, I'm not. 1,000 to 2,000 would be a full stop. So 1,000 to 1250 is a third of a stop, right?
1,000 to 2,000
is a full stop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds about right.
Just under a third, I think. I don't know, but I would imagine it's kind of like the Bugatti Veyron. Do you know the story of the Bugatti Veyron?
No.
I can't remember the exact speeds, but basically the Bugatti Veyron car, and in case I lose anyone here, it was really fast to 200 and something miles an hour, and then it cost them, for every mile an hour to go faster, it cost them an extra X amount in R&D, but the amount was unbelievable. It was millions to go that 1 mile an hour faster.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it's probably like that with light. It's just that to get that extra third of a stop is just, really expensive on the R&D. But they look cool. So
Much like the Bugatti.
Exactly. Less radiators, though. I think the Bugatti Veyron has something like 64 radiators.
Well, when you're pumping out that much light, you probably need a bigger fan, if that makes it.
Yeah, it's meant to be quiet, though. So
Right.
I actually got no idea. I'm now looking up how many radiators the Bugatti Veyron's got. 10 radiators. 10. So nowhere near 64. So everything I've just said could have been rubbish. So yeah, anyway, so long story short, the Zoom Rod S, I really like it. It's really nicely made, and it's going to be in my kit bag because it fixes the one problem I had with flat-fronted lights.
Nice. Well, I look forward to seeing some examples of that when you start posting some images from shoots having used it.
Yeah, so it's been last couple of weeks I've been using it properly, and so yeah, hopefully I'll be able to start posting stuff relatively soon. That's the plan,
Nice. Well, listen, we've prattled on for quite a while now. We're coming up to the hour mark. We have a great guest on, I don't want to say next week's show, but the next episode.
Yes, we do. One of my personal favourite episodes.
Yeah, it was a really good one, really strong episode. And somebody who I think we both agree we'd love to get back on, because it's one of those episodes that afterwards you're like, wish I'd asked about that.
He's also agreed to come back on.
He has, yeah.
So,
but as ever, if you, the listeners, want to hear from anyone in particular, or any areas of topics that we have not discussed, because there's loads that we've still yet to discuss on this show, and specialisms and whatever, then please do get in touch, because obviously we're doing this for the listeners. So if there's something that you specifically want to learn about or hear about, or somebody you want to hear about, people that you want to suggest as guests to come on the show, please do get in touch. You can reach us on email at info@exposenegative.com. You can find us on Instagram at xnegative, and obviously leave a comment on the YouTube videos or elsewhere. Tom normally does this bit, so elsewhere. Just put it out into the ether.
Yeah, we'll
try
pick it
and
up.
like just put it out with some kind of manifest destiny karma things, and we'll find it.
It'll come to us. It'll be like Wayne's World. If you book them, they will come.
Exactly.
So, okay, cool. Well, listen, thank you ever so much for listening, and enjoy the show notes that Greg is going to painstakingly put together. I do feel sorry for Greg for having to do that, but it's roles.
Every time you mention a new thing, I'm like, oh, damn it!
Right, quick fire. Here we go. But yeah, listen, let's not leave it so long, and always a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show. If you would like to find out more, you can find us on YouTube, which is just youtube.com/exposenegative, and we are at xnegative on Instagram. And if you'd like to follow us personally, you can find myself there as at Greg Fennell, which is GregFunnell, and Tom can be found as tombarnes.com, which is TomBarnesDotcom. Thanks very much.